What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Croggy, and today we're talking about Marvel Rivals. I want to talk about Marvel Rivals specifically because this is the most recent hero shooter to be released, and I've been sort of in and out of love with hero shooters over the years. But the one that came out just before this that was supposed to be a big success, according to Sony and the budget that they've provided to the team, was Concord, and Concord failed. And I want to talk about a little bit why I think Marvel succeeded where Concord did not. For starters, we're doing this old school, okay? We're going to talk about the class and the loadout and then jump into everything else. I'm obviously, as you can tell, playing Winter Soldier. Arguably the best character in this entire game, but that's my own personal opinion. I think he's crazy, I think he's cracked, he's nuts, okay? Anyway, so Concord released a few months ago to very negative or mixed reception and very, very low sales numbers. So Sony made no profit. They actually lost some hundreds of millions of dollars on the production and release of that game. Under no circumstances did Concord look like it should have been a flop, and it was actually developed really well. The game felt solid, it was tight, it was smooth, everything played well, the gunplay was nice. Like, you know, the gunplay felt good. But it failed for what I feel is many, many reasons. So one, Sony put, I think it was billions of dollars into the game, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know, it was some exorbitant amount of money, some hundreds of millions of dollars or billion of dollars or whatever, doesn't matter. But they put a lot of money into it, and the marketing just did not sell the game the way that maybe it should have, number one. Number two, I think that by default, you can tell when the game was conceptualized, when it was conceived in concept. Hero shooter, basically a cast of characters that's meant to be a Walmart version of the Guardians of the Galaxy, because the movie had released about 8 years ago, around the same time that Overwatch had come out. So you can see kind of where all of that had come from, right? So anyway, moving on. I think, to be honest with you, the last one was the price tag. It was about a $50 game on launch. It was approximately $50 release. You know, those three things don't really mesh well together. Especially when you're dealing with games that historically have been free. And if we look at the history of hero shooters based on just the big four, or three now, Team Fortress 2 released years ago, and Team Fortress 2 was a game that was developed and released in the Source engine by Valve, released, I think, early 2000, I think it was like 2005. I might be totally wrong about the date, maybe 2007, I don't know. But it was released in the early 2000s. And the game now is still incredibly popular. It has a very dedicated community with lots of custom servers, official servers. The game is no longer supported by the official dev team, but they have a community team that keeps up with the game and releases events, and you know, the community there is still very, very strong. Overwatch, I think in about 2016, about 8 years ago, Overwatch released. I think it was about a $40 purchase if you bought the lowest tier of the game. But it was very novel because TF2 would come out, I want to say 10 years, 12 years earlier, sort of within that time frame. So Overwatch was a very novel concept, and it took TF2 and basically modernized it. They brought it up to contemporary standards with more maps, more content, loot boxes, which was a big thing at the time, and lots of content consistently being released for the game to keep the community active and engaged. Fast forward, I think it was about 8-ish years, Overwatch 2 finally released, free-to-play. Content was lacking, so Overwatch has kind of fallen off the map compared to where it was. And in that gap, Concord tried to fill in. At a $50 price tag where most hero shooters by that point were free, and most games had become free-to-play, most live service games had become free-to-play to incentivize people to play. Fortnite had already been out for a number of years, so people kind of had this expectation that it should follow the traditional live service model that games like Fortnite and Overwatch 2 and other free-to-play live service titles had adopted. And it didn't do that by not being free-to-play, which immediately, thematically, it fell short. People weren't fans. Then the game was announced to be a $50 purchase and not free-to-play, and that incentivized people even less to play the game, because now they had to dish out an arm and a leg to play a game that, compared to the rest of the market, should be free. And it wasn't. So with Overwatch sort of falling off and dying, in the wake of that, Concord died before it even had a chance to grow a set of legs and really get on its feet. In the empty gap that was left with the fall of Concord came Marvel Rivals. And Marvel Rivals, to me, is the perfect culmination of what made Overwatch special when it released 8-9 years ago, and what Concord should have done correctly. Namely, one, release as a free-to-play model. Two, in releasing a game and marketing a game with this quirky cast of Guardians of the Galaxy-like characters, what I'm going to call the Walmart Guardians of the Galaxy, they could have just made a Guardians of the Galaxy game. Now, I understand that licensing and things like that matter, and so legally they could not have done that. But I think we understand the point I'm making. They tried to release Guardians of the Galaxy Overwatch, and it didn't work for people because those things were not novel ideas anymore when the game had released. But when they started development, they were novel ideas. What Marvel Rivals does is they've created a solid, fun, competitive, tight hero shooter with some of the best gunplay I've experienced in a game in a long, long time. And have essentially created a Guardians of the Galaxy Overwatch. The four of them are there, plus more. So they've done more. They've created something larger and more cohesive than just a Guardians of the Galaxy Overwatch, with a cast of characters that everybody already knows and loves. And frankly, some of the designs here that were changed and updated for this game specifically were done so incredibly well. The designs have been updated to a degree that most games do not go through the process of redesigning their characters for. They've knocked it out of the park. And on top of that, the marketing didn't need to happen in the overabundant, expensive way that most games choose to market their product now. Because all you had to do was say, hey, guess what? A Marvel shooter is coming out, and the entire internet blew up. The entire internet started buzzing. We were all ablaze with news and information. Everybody was talking about it. So your marketing costs are covered basically by doing nothing. A couple of trailers here and there, and you've got the whole world talking about it because Marvel's making a hero shooter. That's insane. That's something that should never happen. So your marketing costs were free. They didn't spend $50 billion on marketing the game, at least not to my knowledge. All of these factors play into one another. You don't end up with a messy, failed experiment like Concord when you're dealing with properties like Marvel and you've got a developer who clearly knows what they're doing. Yeah, it's NetEase, fine. They kind of just take on a lot of those third-party projects. But they've done it. They did an incredible job. The game's solid. It's fun. It's fast-paced. Gunplay is tight and clean. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Completely on a biased perspective, Winter Soldier is my favorite DPS character I've ever played in a hero shooter ever. So, you take your pick. Anyway, that's going to be everything for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you're enjoying about the game. And talk to me about Marvel Rivals. It's fun. It's great. But with all that out of the way, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. I have another video coming soon talking about how the channel is going to change. I've made some changes in my head. I don't like where things are going, but we'll deal with that at a later date. So I want to thank everybody again for watching the video, and I will talk to you guys soon.